black South Africans is sitting at 40.7%. Out of 10 black South Africans of working age, only 4 have a job. Most black South African households typically rely on just one wage earner, and this wage must support 3.8 people. The latest median wage data shows that black South Africans earn 3,000 Rand a month. If you divide this by 4, you get 750 Rand per capita. The national minimum wage at its maximum of 3,500, when dispersed through a family of 4, is 875 Rand per capita. This is below the upper bound poverty line of 1,138 Rand, which was set in April of last year. The national minimum wage, when it comes into effect, will be a poverty wage. Our unemployment rates have stagnated at extremely high levels. Jobs are not going to come quick enough, and the majority of households cannot put proper food on the table. So last time in summary, we warned that government should not tax what it does not understand, let alone what it cannot control. It cannot accurately predict what the impact of food price inflation will be for households living on low incomes. In this context, we said increasing VAT on a good government has no control over, and which the past 2 to 3 years, the inflation rate has proved to be highly volatile, if not wildly unpredictable. And given the special and crucial role food plays in our health and for all of our developmental outcomes and our social stability, and more so in the context of rising levels of poverty and substantial underspending on food, is very reckless.
That's right.
The 1st of April has shown that our warnings were well grounded. In April 2018, the foods in our basket came to 3,144 Rand. This is the highest level we have ever seen. The 1% increase in VAT from 14% to 15% actually resulted in a 6.5% increase in the total VAT levied on the food subject to VAT in our basket. The total VAT amount due was 222 Rand. Food subject to VAT make up 54% of the total cost of our basket. What this shows is that households living on low incomes are highly exposed to VAT. We also need to recognize that the hike in VAT to 15% is still going to take time to run itself through our food value chains. So it means that the Rand value of the VAT is likely to increase further. What we also found, which is really very interesting, is that inflation on zero-rated foods tracks much higher than inflation on VATable foods. Between September 2017 and April 2018, inflation on the zero-rated foods on our basket was 13%. And this was much higher compared to the much lower 4.8% on VATable foods. So the inflation on zero-rated foods tracks much higher than inflation on VATable foods. Our data shows that zero rating does not guarantee affordability. Zero rating just means that there's no VAT on food. It doesn't mean that food is subsidized. It doesn't mean that the food prices are regulated. It does not mean that zero-rated food is affordable. It is also important to recognize that the VAT hike comes when we have a massive affordability crisis. Households living on low incomes are highly exposed to VAT. VAT eats away the little money households have in their pockets to secure the very basic content of life. It will continue to eat away the small increments in social grants and the low baseline wage increases. The VAT hike should not have happened. Government does not regulate food prices. Food prices are highly unpredictable. Zero-rated foods are not affordable. There should be no VAT on food. What we are finding is that when it comes to household affordability, it really comes down to how much money is in our pockets. Affordability under a capitalist economy is relative to the level of income and the cost of goods and services. So either government needs to increase wages, or it needs to reduce the prices of foods, or at least regulate them. We are calling for wages to be increased to a living wage, for government to regulate food prices, for food to be made a public good, and for all VAT to be removed off food. The fundamental problem we face is much greater than an argument against VAT and trying to make it less harmful. Households living on low incomes are not going to be able to escape the VAT increase. Our problems are greater than VAT, however. The fundamental problem is that food is not affordable. The majority of South Africans are facing a food affordability crisis, and millions of our people cannot put food on the table. PACSA does not support expanding the basket of zero-rated foods. Zero rating is not going to address the affordability crisis. Zero-rated foods are not affordable. Tinkering around and maybe getting an additional handful of food zero-rated might get us a few slaps on the back, but it's not going to address the core problem of the food affordability crisis. It is a structural problem, and we reject this approach. We have to think differently. Food must be made a public good. All VAT must be removed off food, and all workers must earn a living wage. Thank you.
Mommy?